What is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. A few weeks ago, I posted a What is Cognitive Science at UC Berkeley, and so today we are following up that video with a What is Legal Studies at UC Berkeley. And so if you are new here, hello, my name is Rachel. I just graduated from UC Berkeley in May 2020, where I double majored in cognitive science and legal studies. Now I'm currently working full-time at a law firm. And so if you are a student applying to colleges this cycle, you should definitely check out Study Hall College Consulting. It's a team of myself and other UC Berkeley students where we specialize in reviewing college application essays and consulting one-on-one with students or parents. On our website, we have a blog where we post weekly advice, and then on our social medias, we post tips and tricks throughout the week as well. So without further ado, let's get started with what is the legal studies major like at UC Berkeley. So first, we are going to start off with what is legal studies exactly. From Berkeley's legal studies major website, they say that legal studies is an interdisciplinary liberal arts major that engages the meanings, values, practices, and institutions of law and legality. The legal studies curriculum examines how law shapes and is shaped by political, economic, and cultural forces. The major is designed to stimulate the critical understanding of and inquiry about the theoretical frameworks, historical dynamics, and cultural embeddedness of law. So the definition of the major is a bunch of big words pushed together, I think. So first, we are going to talk about the classes that you need in order to declare the major. You can declare the major after completing 2 of the 4 prereq courses. And so for the prerequisites, you have to take 1 distinct course from each of the following 4 categories: statistics, philosophy, history, and social and behavioral sciences. So with these categories, they give you lists of classes that you can take in order to fulfill these requirements, or you test out of it using your AP exams. So the cool thing is, if you get a 3 or higher on certain AP exams, then you can skip out of some of these prereqs. Besides the philosophy one, you can't skip that one. So for me, for the statistics prereq, I actually took AP Stats, so I could skip out of it. I also took Stats 20 when I applied to Haas, so technically I had like 2 things that could fulfill this because I didn't really start getting into legal studies until junior year after I had already taken the Haas prereqs kind of thing. So I had numerous classes that could fulfill these prerequisites. So for the history requirement, I took Ethnic Studies 10A. This is actually not on their list of classes that you can take to fulfill this history requirement, but I went to the advisor and I told her that I've taken this other ethnic studies class in the past. Can it count towards the history prereq here in legal studies? And so it was super great. That was such a good day because she said yes and she signed off on it, put it on my transcript as, okay, I don't need to take this history requirement, and that saved me a lot of time from having to go back and take another history prereq after I've already taken like upper divs in legal studies. So don't be afraid to go talk to your advisors, see if you can get out of classes through AP exams, or if you've already taken classes like me, freshman and sophomore year, before finding the major junior year, then that is something that can work to your benefit. For the social behavioral I can't say it. I had the AP US Government and Politics AP exam that could test me out of this requirement. But also, like I said, check out my how I chose my major video. I switched around like a lot freshman and sophomore year. So for this requirement, I actually had Econ 1, Poli-Sci 1, Poli-Sci 2, and Sociology 3AC that all could count towards completing this prereq. So that's okay, you know, I changed my major a few times, and so I had all of these classes, but also when I was picking classes, when I was interested in like poli-sci or the business school, I made sure that those classes also fulfilled breadth requirements, because at Berkeley, for the College of Letters and Sciences, which is the college that legal studies falls under, you have to take breadth requirements as well. So right now it might sound like, oh Rachel, you've taken like 4 classes when you really only needed to take 1 here. That's a waste of time, which it is sort of in a way, but also these classes fulfilled breadth requirements. So like the Poli-Sci 2 class fulfills my international relations breadth requirement. The sociology class fulfilled a requirement. So even though I took all of these like extra classes per se, I would have had to take something else anyways to fulfill those breadth requirements. Once you declare the major, and in order to graduate, one part of the legal studies major is that you have to take 4 core requirements. So you have to take 4 courses from the list below, at least 1 designated as humanities, which is the H, and then 1 designated as social sciences, or the SS. There are not a lot of core requirement choices, and with the list of options, not all of those classes are offered every single semester. You could get into a pickle where you might need a class, but it's already full because a ton of other students in the major need that class, or you need a class and it's not being offered that semester. So I would try to take these earlier before the next set of classes that you need to take that I'm going to talk about next, because these ones don't have a lot of options. And so for my core requirements, I took Legal Studies 100 Foundations of Legal Studies. This counts as H or SS. I liked this course. I thought it was interesting. I took it actually after I took other legal studies classes, so it was sort of repetitive because 100 is supposed to be the intro class, but I thought it was good to reinforce those materials. So like, how is the legal system set up, all of that. For this class, as a requirement, field trip kind of thing, we all had to go to like a courthouse and see how the proceedings work. So it was cool as like background information. If you don't really know anything about the law, then this is definitely a good class to take at the start. Another core requirement I took was Legal Studies 138. This is the Supreme Court and Public Policy. It is a social science SS class. This class was also cool because we talked all about different Supreme Court cases, and they were split into different sections. So like abortion, gay rights, segregation in schools, stuff like that. And it was really interesting because I feel like, you know, in high school in US government, we learn a lot about those really famous Supreme Court cases, but in reality, the Supreme Court cases aren't really like that, and it was cool to see like how the decisions have changed over time and how the Supreme Court is actually like taking away rights that we used to have. So it's really fascinating. Another core requirement is Legal Studies 160, Punishment, Culture, and Society. It's an H or SS class. This one was cool as well. We talked all about like the evolution of the jail and the prison and how punishment has evolved over the ages, from like the inception of the idea of punishment and crime and jails and prisons to nowadays with like mass incarceration. Are prisons and jails helping, useful, or not? Finally, for the last core requirement, I took Legal Studies 177, American Legal and Constitutional History. I feel like 177 and 138, the Supreme Court class, are very similar because in 177 we also talked a lot about like Supreme Court cases, how the decisions are changing and how they like evolved over time. So I would say maybe if I were to do it again, maybe I wouldn't take 138 and 177 because I felt like a lot of the information does overlap. And so with the core requirements, you also have to take 4 discipline distribution requirements. With these distribution requirements, you have to take 2 courses in one of the following areas and 1 course in 2 distinctly different additional areas for a total of 4 courses. So similar to the prereqs, they give you these 5 areas, and then there's a list of a ton of classes that you can take within each area. The distribution requirements are pretty cool because you have a lot of freedom and independence to pick courses that truly interest you and then don't do courses that you're not interested in. So for me, I took 2 classes in area 1, the crime, law, and social control area. So I took Legal Studies 170, Crime and Criminal Justice, and Legal Studies 163, Adolescence, Crime, and Juvenile Justice. So Legal Studies 170 and 163, these were the first 2 ever legal studies classes that I took, and Legal Studies 170 is what inspired me. It's the class that made me want to pick the legal studies major. And we talked a lot about truly what rights you have in the eye of the law. So like while you're driving, or if you get pulled over, or if you're in your house, like what rights do you really have? And so 163, also a cool class all about children offenders and like what happens to them, why do children commit crimes, stuff like that. Then in area 2, the law and culture class, I took Legal Studies 181, Psychology and the Law. I talked about this class in my cognitive science major video and in my best and worst classes at UC Berkeley video. And like I mentioned in other videos, we talked all about bias, implicit bias, eyewitness testimonies, false memories, stuff like that. For this class, I submitted a petition that actually let me use this class to fulfill a cognitive science requirement. Even though like none of the major requirements for my double major overlapped, doing stuff like this helped me to graduate in 4 years, even though I got a slow start on declaring my 2 majors. And then finally, I took 1 class in area 3, didn't take any in area 4 or 5, but for area 3, the law and markets area, I took Legal Studies 149, Law, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. And so I'm pretty sure I talked about this class also in my best and worst classes at UC Berkeley. This class actually inspired me to like be interested in intellectual property, and like now I'm working at an intellectual property law firm. So like it's funny how things like that play out in your life. We talked a lot about like intellectual property, a lot of like guest speakers who are CEOs at companies came in and talked with the class. At the end of the class, we got to create our own business and created our own business model presentation. Like this was a really, really cool class. And so those are all of the requirements and all of the classes that I took for the legal studies major. And so lastly, I'll talk a little bit about, does the legal studies major help you with the LSAT? I would say that whatever major you do end up majoring in, it doesn't necessarily help you with the LSAT, because the LSAT is more of like reasoning, how you think, and it's a learnable test. So the LSAT isn't like the MCAT where they are testing you on the courses that you had to take in college, like OChem, chemistry, physics, bio, anything like that. And so in those terms, I would say that the legal studies major, because it is a lot of reading, you read Supreme Court cases, you read the textbook, it does help you in a sense for the LSAT that you know how to read, you know how to synthesize what you're reading in a way that might be different from people who don't do a lot of reading in their major. So I would say that is helpful. But all in all, you know, if you majored in like legal studies, English, political science versus people majoring in STEM, it doesn't like really help you with the LSAT, you know, because the LSAT isn't going to be testing you on Supreme Court cases, or like who was this justice on the Supreme Court, name that Supreme Court case. And if you're interested in LSAT things, I will also have my LSAT playlist linked down below. And so yeah, that is the end of this video all about what is the legal studies major like at UC Berkeley. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or any videos that you wanted to see me do. As always, thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot. Make sure you thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I post every single Sunday and Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so I will see you all next time.